So Jorge Masvidal has recently come out and said that if he does beat Kamaru Usman, in fact he said when he beats Kamaru Usman, because you know how much fighters love denying the chance and probability of the fight game, he has come out and said that when he gets the belt, when, in his own mind, he gets the belt from Kamaru Usman, he will be defending against Nate Diaz or Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Now, I'm not too much of a stickler for the rankings, but I feel as though they should be somewhat respected, and that might not be the way the UFC goes with Jorge Masvidal. If he does get the belt against Kamaru Usman, I really don't think they would allow making him versus Nate Diaz 2 the rematch, because I'll say this again, there is no value in that rematch. We know what we saw, and I think the UFC answered Masvidal's talking about giving Nate Diaz a rematch perfectly by uploading a free fight of the original fight between him and Nate Diaz, which was, as we know, a one-sided beating with a potential for 10-8 rounds. Honestly, I don't want to see that rematch between him and Nate Diaz. And Gilbert Burns has also came out and said that, oh my god, if I really hope Usman wins, because if Mike Perry not if Mike Perry, I'm still talking about Mike Perry after today's situation, but if Jorge Masvidal wins, Gilbert Burns says the division is just going to descend into chaos and he has no idea what's going to happen. That's a valid point. Everyone should be worried about Masvidal getting the belt, because if he's looking to take on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Nate Diaz, that's a bit of a problem. Not only is it a problem when he actually kind of does get the belt, if he gets the belt, it's also a problem that he's only just said that. Just him saying that he wants Wonderboy or Nate Diaz in a rematch if he gets the belt off of Kamaru Usman kind of puts Wonderboy on hold. Like, Wonderboy, who may have been, who knows, a few days away from signing a fight with Michael Chiesa or Leon Edwards, is now going to be thinking to himself, hang on a second here, screw all that, I'm not going to sign a fight and book myself up. I'm going to see what happens in this title fight, and if Masvidal wins, I'm going to give it a month and see if the next fight is me. So what happens is, when you call out these guys, they're going to start becoming less active, and I want to see Wonderboy back in there again, because he himself, as well as Jorge Masvidal, have not fought since UFC 244, where he fought Vicente Luque. He's been out a long time, and Wonderboy is not getting any older. I mean, it might be time to start changing his name to Wonder Man, honestly. But still, Nate Diaz as well, if he was maybe looking to sign a fight with Conor McGregor in a trilogy, or maybe looking for a fight with RDA, or I don't know who he would be fighting, Robbie Lawler maybe in the welterweight division. Nate Diaz is now going to put that on hold and think, hang on a second, I'm going to see what happens in the title fight, and if Masvidal wins, I'll give it a month and see if he calls me out. I don't like it. If Masvidal wins the belt against Kamaru Usman, there is only one matchup possible. The winner of Leon Edwards versus Gilbert Burns. There's 3 matchups possible. I forgot about Leon Edwards, Gilbert Burns, even though it was my first idea. There's more than one matchup possible. There's many. What the fuck am I doing? There's 3 matchups possible for Masvidal if he wins the belt against Kamaru Usman. The winner of Leon Edwards versus Gilbert Burns. The winner of Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley. These fights haven't been made yet, but I'm assuming they will be made soon, because if those fights aren't made soon, I don't know what the UFC's fucking doing. Those are the perfect matches to make right now. If Colby Covington beats Tyron Woodley, I want to see Masvidal versus Colby Covington, but there's one other matchup on the way. Conor McGregor. A very big factor in this welterweight title picture right now. His last fight was at welterweight, and I know that's not really a good thing because he fought Cerrone, who was a 55er at 170, and it holds no value there. I get it. But still, McGregor has a win over Nate Diaz, and if Masvidal is looking to call out Nate Diaz after hopefully beating Kamaru Usman at UFC 251 this weekend, if Nate Diaz is eligible for a title shot and he's lost to Masvidal, surely someone in Conor McGregor who hasn't lost to Jorge Masvidal and has actually beaten Nate Diaz is also going to be somewhat eligible for a title shot as well. I'm sure if Masvidal gets the belt and calls out Conor McGregor, he'll get a Conor McGregor fight. Because Conor McGregor right now is hearing all this stuff from Dustin Poirier about waiting until February, and then Tony Ferguson's looking for their Justin Gaethje rematch, and then also looking for Dustin Poirier. I mean, no one seems to be calling McGregor's name at lightweight right now, and whether that be a spiteful thing just to get back at Conor McGregor and show him who's really in charge of the lightweight division, or maybe that's who knows. They don't like the matchup with Conor McGregor, because I tell you, Conor McGregor against a lot of those top guys in the lightweight division is a nightmare matchup. You're talking about an elite striker with KO power in the first round against Tony Ferguson, against Dustin Poirier. against Justin Gaethje, who all like to keep it standing despite their wrestling backgrounds and wrestling ability. I mean, that's dream matchups for Conor McGregor, but still, if Conor McGregor doesn't get the Dustin Poirier fight, him versus Masvidal is great right now. But one thing I think that might hold Masvidal back from signing a fight with Conor McGregor is because if Dustin Poirier is looking at that Conor McGregor fight now, and now Conor McGregor's called him out, maybe Dustin Poirier thought, you know what, I'm not going to be the first one to call out Conor McGregor in the case I get denied. But now that Conor McGregor's called out Dustin Poirier, Poirier might be a little bit more interested, like, hang on here. The least I could do is respond and maybe get myself a nice big money fight with Conor McGregor in a rematch and eradicate the worst loss in Dustin Poirier's mind of his career, where he learned not to fight emotionally. He wishes he could run that one back. Maybe this is his big opportunity. And if that is the case, that Poirier wants to fight with Conor McGregor, Poirier and Masvidal are buddy-buddy in training at ATT. They're best friends. I mean, they held hands and walked up to Dan Lambert and told, get Colby Covington out, he's being mean. They're really good friends. They're teammates for a reason. So if Dustin Poirier is trying to get the McGregor fight, I doubt Masvidal's going to want to step on his toes when he knows that money fights are waiting for him, because Masvidal's done the great thing that people don't seem to know how to do in the UFC of becoming his own money fight. If you look at all the guys Masvidal has fought, I know Ben Askren kind of fed into his hype a little bit, and even Ben Askren came out and said, I am the only reason that Masvidal is as big as he is because of the knockout over me, but I don't really think that's the case. He KO'd Darren Till. That's all on Masvidal. I know Darren Till was a huge name, but still, Masvidal's the one that went out there and KO'd him. Then he got in a backstage fight. Then he mentioned the 3-piece and the soda situation. Then he got the world's fastest KO in UFC history. So these are all things with Masvidal just building his own star power. I don't think he's going to be looking to need Conor McGregor at 170 right now, because if he wins, if Colby beats Woodley, and they make that fight soon, and I hope they make that fight soon, because Colby versus Woodley would be a great fight to make. Both of them coming off losses. I know Woodley isn't calling him out right now, even though he's been kind of urged to by the media. They're saying, is there anyone you'd like to call out? And Woodley's saying, I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head. Bullshit, you know you can think of Colby Covington, but you're just not calling him out for some reason because you only want to fight him on short notice. But still, Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley is a great fight to make next. The winner of that, if it's Colby Covington, should get the title shot against Jorge Masvidal, and the winner of Gilbert Burns versus Leon Edwards could also get a title shot against Jorge Masvidal as well, because guess what? Leon Edwards has his own history with Masvidal, with the backstage fight, and also Gilbert Burns now has a history of Jorge Masvidal. Even if he didn't have it before, he now does. He's a training partner of Usman, and if Masvidal beats Usman, first of all, this is a big if video. This is a big if. Masvidal has to get past Usman, and that is a big order. That's a tall order, because I've picked Usman to beat Masvidal. I don't think Masvidal's going to beat him. I pray to God that Masvidal baptizes this fall and gets him out of the welterweight division for good. But, you know, things can happen. Usman's probably going to win, in my opinion, so fingers crossed. Everyone keep your fingers crossed. If Masvidal gets the belt, it's the winner of Covington-Woodley, if it's Colby Covington, or the winner of Burns versus Edwards. If it's Burns, Burns can be the guy that was supposed to fight Usman that got pulled out last minute, so his name is still associated with the Masvidal-Usman fight, and they can try and build some narrative there. I don't know if they're gonna... I don't know. I could see Burns getting shafted so many times for a title shot. I could see him in a Tony Ferguson type situation. Obviously, he hasn't put together the resume that Ferguson put forward, but I mean, Burns is not the guy right now that the UFC wants to give a title shot to. I think they kind of only gave Burns the title shot against Usman out of spite of Jorge Masvidal. Oh, you want to play the negotiation game with us, Masvidal? We're giving it to Burns then. That's how much we don't care. We don't care about you so much, Masvidal, that we will give a title shot to Burns. Gilbert Burns. The big Fight Island massive event that was supposed to kick off the UFC's comeback. Not kick off, but there's already been some events. But the Fight Island was a huge deal. Kicking off Fight Island with Gilbert Burns. You know, it doesn't have the same ring to it. And I think that was done purely out of spite of Masvidal trying to negotiate with them. Whereas, you know, Masvidal's now back at the table. He's got himself a little bit of money. I'm assuming he's making the same money he made against Nate Diaz. That would be a fair assumption. I'm assuming he's going to get a little bit of the pay-per-view revenue for having his own belt, a BMF belt. That would make some level of sense as well. But still, hopefully Masvidal beats Usman. I just don't want to see him versus Nate Diaz or Wonderboy. Now, if he does beat Kamaru Usman and Wonderboy happens to win one more fight, I'm on board. I just feel like these guys need to earn their title shots. The title is only as good as those who fight for it. And if those who fight for it aren't worthy, then the belt means nothing. You know? That's the case. Wonderboy is going to have to go out there and beat a guy like Michael Chiesa. So if I was Wonderboy right now, I wouldn't hear the news from Masvidal and think to myself, right, I'll just sit out and hopefully Masvidal calls me out after this. I wouldn't do that. If I was Wonderboy, I'd look for Gilbert Burns, Colby Covington, Leon Edwards in a reasonably quick time. Don't give yourself too long of a camp. I'd say fight before September at least, or maybe at the start of September. Win a fight there in spectacular fashion, and then get your fight with Jorge Masvidal. But I just don't like this talk about a Nate Diaz rematch mainly. That just makes no sense to me. The Nate Diaz rematch... Listen, I know there's a lot of Nate Diaz fans out there, man. But that shit weren't close, man. That was just a one-sided beatdown from Masvidal. What is the allure of a rematch? We didn't see Nate die. Give us a rematch. We need to see Nate die. Like, what's the rematch for? I don't get it. We were robbed of seeing Nate beaten up for 2 more rounds. Give us the rematch. Like, that doesn't make any sense. The rematch is supposed to be like, this guy could have won. Or, that was a robbery. Bullshit. Or, that was razor close. And let's do it again because there were moments on both guys. But, like, Nate Diaz's biggest moment in that fight with Jorge Masvidal was a front kick at the beginning. And then a half leg lock in the 3rd round, I believe, at some point, if I remember correctly. And then one punch against Masvidal in the 2nd round as well that was just sloppy and out of nowhere. I don't like the Nate Diaz rematch talks. I think Nate Diaz is not going to get a rematch. I think the only reason that Nate Diaz is going to get a rematch is if Masvidal loses to Usman. Nate Diaz is a really good bounce back fight for Jorge Masvidal. So if I was Masvidal, I'd stop talking about Nate Diaz for now. But he's brought it up and he's made headlines regarding him and Nate Diaz. So maybe that's a good thing. But I would use Nate Diaz and Wonderboy Masvidal as my comeback strategy. Because odds are you're going to lose to Usman. I would love to see you win. I'd love to see you win in the 1st round by brutal KO. I really would. Trust me. Usman lied about his upbringing. I really want to see it. I really want to see that shit happen. I want him to get KO'd brutally for what he's done. But the odds are you're going to lose. I'd say use Wonderboy and Nate Diaz rematch. Both of them, actually. Yeah, that works. Both of them are rematches, of course. As your bounce back plan. You're going to need something if this doesn't go your way. And because, by the way, because you took it on a week's notice, which I think that Masvidal knows, because you took this on a week's notice, it's okay to lose. Because you took it on a week's notice. All you need after losing on a week's notice against the champion is one big win, especially considering how big of a name Masvidal is. One big win, slide yourself right back in for a title shot, claiming that this time it's going to be on full camp. You know? Even though this one's on full camp. Because Poirier came out and said it. Even though Masvidal came out and said he's only been training 3 times a week and not with any wrestlers. I mean, it's just a whole bit of a shambles right now. But if Masvidal wins, there's going to be a little bit of a problem. I would argue Colby versus Woodley. Get it made now for a main event in September or at the end of August. Get that fight made. Because if Colby wins, that's one of my greatest fights of all time. Jorge Masvidal versus Colby Covington. With Masvidal as champion? Like, that is just a golden situation. And even if Masvidal loses, maybe do Masvidal versus Covington again. We'll see what happens. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. Goodbye. It's going to get crazy if Masvidal wins. I feel like it's going to get real crazy. It's going to get crazy. If Nate Diaz is given a title shot, if Masvidal wins, Olympus has fallen.